Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. We are a weekly podcast focusing on the paranormal, the supernatural, and the metaphysical. Join us for thought-provoking discussions on paranormal phenomena, conspiracies, and all things unexplained as we talk to researchers and investigators about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs and aliens, urban legends, cryptids, and so much more. Please be sure to like and subscribe and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. You can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. So grab yourself a drink and a snack, turn the lights off on the way back, find yourself a nice comfy spot, and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. We have a great show coming up. We're talking to Nancy Thames, a former Department of Defense employee, a lifelong contactee of interdimensional extraterrestrial beings, and so much more. This is going to be a great show. Also, we are on the UNX networks. Please go over there, check us out, go to Paranomaly, check us out. And Nancy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm just excited to be here. I think it's going to be a wonderful show.
Yes. Jim, how are you?
Good, not bad. Great.
Good. Nancy, tell us about yourself. Let's. I definitely need to know more.
Yeah. Well, I'm Nancy Thames, and I am a lifelong contactee with interdimensional beings and extraterrestrials. And my first conscious awareness or remembrance was like around 2 to 3 years old. And I remember, them coming to visit on pretty much a regular basis. And I found it to be quite fun, very playful, very entertaining. And I look forward to these things. So, at that point in my life, I had no barriers built up. It was what it was, and the world around me had not influenced me in any way. And when I would talk to my mom and dad about it, they would just say, "Oh, go back to bed. That's silly. Go back to bed," that kind of thing. So that's pretty much how it was until I got to about junior high school age. And at that age, over the course of time, it wasn't so cute for me to go running into the room and start to tell my parents about little people running around, or little beings running around in my room. It wasn't that cute little girl anymore. It was like, we've heard this before, go to bed. Yeah, we don't want to listen to this. So basically what they did was they told me, when I would try to discuss it further, that first of all, I grew up in Tennessee, which is deep South, pretty much the South. And in the South, that was considered part of the Bible Belt. And these things were considered either demonic or either a mental health issue. And so they were just like, you cannot talk about this at Girl Scouts or at school or with family members. They put people away for talking about things like this. So I learned at a very early age that this was not a topic that was acceptable to talk about basically anywhere unless I was at home just with my immediate family. And then those type discussions were not about what I was seeing in my room. Those were discussions about the universe and, what we thought was out there and things of this nature. So anyway, it wasn't until I was like in high school and a little bit older that I started to experience fear, experiencing anxiety. I've always had the ability, before they manifest in a room or wherever I am, the frequency in my body changes. And for me, it has never been about what they look like. It is the frequency exchange between a human being and an extraterrestrial or interdimensional. We are at a very low frequency. They are at a much higher frequency. So when we are face to face with each other, that exchange of frequency is overwhelming. It is unbelievable. And our brains basically does not know what to do with this new feeling. It's nothing like you experience here on Earth. And the best way I can describe it is it's like extreme fear with extreme euphoria. If that, I mean, it's like your brain just is like, okay. So
why though? Like what? Like when
it
they
is,
communicate?
no, they don't have to say a word.
You don't have
It
to
is,
say a
it
word.
their body emits a frequency and you feel it in your body. The frequency in your body changes, and it's like it's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. And this is where most people never get past this point, because our brains really does not know what to do with this type feeling. It's not something we experience here. It's above any fear level that we experience here. It's above any roller coaster ride that you've ever been on. So our brain gets this, our DNA kicks in, and we think that it's a predator. And so then we really get anxiety and fear.
Because it's like unknown. Because it's like unknown. It's like the
Yeah,
unknown kind of
exactly.
to that possibly.
So what happens is extraterrestrials and interdimensionals are telepathic, which everybody knows. But whatever we feel, they feel 10 times or tenfold the amount. In their reality, in their dimension where they come from, they do not experience anxiety, fear, sadness, or anything negative as far as that goes. So this is a very uncomfortable feeling or vibe they get off, energy exchange between us to them. And because of that, they will either through their consciousness or take their hand and touch you on the head and put you in a blacked out type state, which is you're fully conscious. But the problem with it is that, well, you'll go through the whole experience, but you won't remember it. So this is where people come back and have missing time or fragmented memories. And a lot of times, even to this day, sometimes for whatever reason, I'm in a blacked out state, but they'll wake me up as I'm going back to the bedroom and I become fully conscious. But at that point, I am feeling like I have been on the most incredible roller coaster rides. And I have what you call extreme vertigo. So for me, I think whenever they're like teleporting me to a distance away, they automatically put me in that state because my brain and my body would not be able to handle that kind of travel. So,
and so when they do that to you and they put you in the state, so what you're saying is they're actually doing it, or at least in part, for them, so that they
they don't like that feeling with that energy that they receive off of us. And also, when people become extremely fearful, they can become agitated, angry, aggressive. So it's a way of calming a human being down, so you're able to go through the experience without all the drama, without all the, the emotional feelings. So, because when they come to have a visit with a human being, it is not for experiments. It is not for fun and games. They are on a mission, a task, and it's part of, which I now know, that it is part of a evolutionary process that we humans are going through. And they're checking on our well-being. They're checking on our spiritual growth. They're checking to see how close we are to our ascension and our evolutionary leap that we are actually going through right now. So, and they also check on our health to see how we're doing, what exposures are we being exposed to and that kind of thing. So There's definitely nothing negative going on, but most people, once they sense that fear, and a lot of them, they get turned off, but all they remember is the fear. And the unfortunate part is that most people's brains will try to fill in these missing time or these fragmented memories, and they only know how to do it. The brain only knows how to do it with whatever your influences or your whatever your programming or spiritual beliefs are, will kind of fill in these things. So a lot of times as we get older, and if we continue on with this, we'll find that our perception will change if we're able to stick with it long enough. And in my case, I accepted the fear, and rather than stay in that state, I forced myself through it, and I asked them to help me, and they offered to help me. So when I got through it, and I still have to work on it now because the frequency difference is still there, but I have to remind my mind, I know what this is, I can do this. And then I pushed through this extreme fear, and it turns out to be a beautiful experience with them. And after a little bit, once you realize that you have mastered that, you don't even really feel the difference in the frequency anymore, because it kind of, your body balances out. And the fact that you're so amazed and in awe of what you're being exposed to, it diminishes. You don't pay attention to that frequency exchange anymore. It's still there though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So, yeah, people do, what they're feeling is real. Fear is real, and that's a natural occurrence. The trick is learning to face your fears, getting over of thinking that we are in a 3D realm where all these negative things can occur, such as wars, racism, negativity, all these negative things. So, we're under the assumption, and when we look at how we treat our world and what's done to us sometimes, we think that in higher dimensions, it will be the same, but it is not. They have, through their evolutionary process, they have eliminated all aspects of negativity. So if we can forget our programming and face our fears and understand the unknown is not always bad, then we'll learn to understand more about who we are and what our potentials are, because fear has been taught and instilled in us throughout our lives since the day we were born, and goes back for eons. This is a way that the dark human forces have a control over humanity, is keeping us in fear, keeping us divided, because they know that once we reach higher levels of consciousness, which means more awareness, higher intelligence, that we will understand and remember our connections, that we are all one and that we are all connected. And when we get to this point and come together, humanity will be unstoppable, and none of these dark forces will be able to control or manipulate us ever again. So they know this, and they're fighting it tooth and nail because they like the control. These are extreme wealthy people that are in control of our governments and all of humanity. And they know that when they lose that, they lose money and they lose their control, and they'll never have it again.
So the main reason why they want to keep us in a lower state of consciousness, the collective consciousness, is because that once we elevate, we'll begin to sense the interconnectedness, and that will kind of resolve conflict. And that's one of the things that they want to keep going.
Exactly. They make money off of wars.
Right.
We get nothing out of wars.
And maybe there's also, and I don't know what you think about this, an echelon of intelligent beings who also are getting something from the wars, but maybe something a little bit different on the energetic level. Or what's your thoughts on that?
I don't believe that at all. I know a lot of people have theories and thoughts, but for me, I've been doing this for 64 years, and I constantly am asking them to help me with these things. And even I have physical face-to-face contact with them. And even when I'm not in face-to-face contact, they are constantly in my dream states. And I'm constantly having experiences in these type things. Anything that I want to understand, they make sure that I go in and experience it. So I can assure you that in the higher realms, there are no wars. There is no negativity. And they've showed me that it's like we're on a DNA ladder, okay? Our ladder, and we are moving up. And as we go up the ladder, all of these negative things, which won't happen overnight, by the way, but these negative aspects will eventually fall off on their own because we will lose interest into them, because it will no longer serve us as a whole of humanity. Wars have gotten us nowhere. It just creates drama, creates division, creates keeping separation of humanity, all these negative aspects. And as we become more aware, we will eliminate these things ourselves. Nobody will have to come in here and do it for us. We are going to do it on our own. And what they tell me, be patient, let evolution run its course. We're going through an evolutionary process. And what people don't know is that every single one of us made a choice to come here to be on planet Earth at this time, even though we don't remember it. We made a choice to come here because this is the biggest event since our creation, and we are all a part of it. And we, somewhere in our minds, if we get in tune with our subconscious, it knows. And that's why so many people have an interest in these things, is because this is the reason why we're here. We're here to take the human experience and turn it into what we were created to be on this planet. We should be enjoying ourselves, enjoying our lives, every aspect of it. And we have never had freedom since the day we were born. And this has been going on for eons. But now we are reaching higher levels of consciousness. The extraterrestrials and interdimensionals have been waiting for us to reach this pivotal moment. And that's what they've been waiting on, because now is the opportunity. We finally understand they are not gods. They are not angels. They are billions of years ahead of us in evolution. If they wanted to take over our planet or do us any harm, it would have already happened and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But no, that is not the case. They are waiting for us to figure out who we truly are, our true origins, and work on being the beings that we were created to be, which is the best version of ourselves. We are not the best version of ourselves, and it's not our fault. Society has turned us into materialistic, high-tech thinking and turned us into seeing negative things all around us. But the world is beautiful all around us. There's life all around us that we simply can't see because we're stuck in this 3D realm. And that's where these higher dark forces would love for us to be stuck here, because they are in control. They can manipulate and control us. They can control the population level at this level. People have shorter lifespans at this level. But when we wake up, reach ascension, and go up to another level, another dimension, which dimensions are not physical locations, they are higher levels of consciousness, which is intelligence, awareness, all these things. So they have so many reasons why they don't want us to reach this point. I, on the other hand, know that we all need this, because if we don't go through this and meet this, it will be the end of civilization at some point as we know it. And I don't think that that should occur. And I don't think that's what it should take to wake the rest of the world up. So I'm sitting here telling people why the interdimensionals, extraterrestrials are here now in such great numbers, and what the true purpose of these contacts with human beings, what the true purpose of them being here is. I can explain any questions that you might have, is like why they have not come down and landed on the White House lawn or anything like that, because they are not here to impress anybody. They are here on a mission, and that is to help us. But a lot of this stuff we have to figure out on our own and work on our own selves to become better human beings. That's all they want, is for us to understand we're not alone, understand that we can change, understand that we have been programmed to think negative and to see the world. We've been programmed to keep us divided and have racism and all these different things, but we are all one and we are all connected. So we need to remember our connections, not only with each other, but with the planet Earth and with every living creature on our planet, and then also the universe and with extraterrestrials and interdimensionals, because as above, so below. We are all one and we are all connected. And we have so much to look forward to. If we take advantage of this wonderful opportunity that we can possibly have, it will change the course of our history. We will go down in history as being the generation that woke up and made a change for the future generations on Earth. And none of it can be done in a day. It has to be done in a slow process because this is a worldwide phenomenon. So if it happened overnight, it would be too much for most brains to understand, and it would overload and people would flip out. So it will be done in a slow, gradual way. And by the time we get to these things, it will be so slow and gradual, it would seem like our world has always been this way, because it is a divine process of our evolution. And this is the way we were created, and this is the way this will happen, because it is our evolution. So I hope that makes some sense to you.
No, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Cut out for a little bit there at the end, but I think we're okay now. Let's rewind and drill down into some
Sure.
So let's go back to your early experiences, and you mentioned that they made it fun for you, or they did things which made the experiences palatable in some kind of way for a child.
Yes.
And I think they also utilize, and I hate to use this term because I don't think this is accurate, but kind of holographic type technology, or what I would think is better termed, and this might not be only it, a kind of psionic ability where they can, on the level of whether our consciousness or where our brain produces imagery, the imagery that we're seeing, that they can get down on that level and alter, what you're seeing. And I believe that you experienced that, right, when you were younger. I think that's something.
I experienced it both ways. I could see them for who they truly are, but if for some reason they caught me on a day that I was sick, or a day that they couldn't keep my full attention, they could, take an image from my mind. Like if my mother had been reading me a storybook, then to perk me up, cheer me up, and to keep me on a conscious level, because that's their goal, is to keep us fully conscious. But that's their goal. They want to be able to have full on contact with us. It's up to us. Yeah.
So they have to suppress you, and then you not have any recall of the. So they want you to have recall, right, of the experiences, and so
they want you to be fully conscious and not have to have a recall. They want you to be fully conscious, and that's what I've learned. What I had when I was little was fully conscious, and then when I became to the point, when I got older and got to the point that there was anxiety or whatever, they could use an image to try to pull me in and keep me in the conscious level, because I would focus on that and not experience the anxiety. But as I got older, I knew the difference I knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. So if I was having my anxiety and fear, they couldn't do that. It wouldn't work on me. So then they would have to tap me out until I could get to past that fear. And when I got in my 20s, and I would ask them, how can I have fully conscious contact? And they told me, you have to learn to face your fears. You have to face your fears. And then that's what I had to learn to do. And it did not happen
Oh. Shoot.
That's okay. We'll get her back.
Yep, hang tight. Maybe send her the link, Todd, again, in case she's totally been closed out of it.
Let me do that.
I want to get into asking her, what in particular did they, not necessarily disguise, or what kind of imagery, did they project to her, to keep her comfortable. I believe she said something in a podcast before about taking the image of Donald Duck or something like that, cartoon characters. And I don't know if I've ever heard that before. That's interesting.
Yes. I am sending her another link.
And what she's saying is true. Yeah. You hear this in a lot of abductee cases when they utilize this. I don't even know if you want to call it a technology or more of a kind of psionic ability, when they're changing their appearance at the level of your brain or consciousness. Like they're not doing anything externally. When they alter their appearance, it's actually done internally through you. They're actually manipulating somehow, either at the level of the brain, the part of the brain that generates, because we're not actually seeing the real world. We're seeing a representation of the real world, that our brains produce.
Right. And what I'm just curious. She was saying about what they want, and I'm curious on what these beings want, because each guest that's had experience, it's it's a diverse thing. Some are they want peace. Some are a more sinister type of thing. So yes.
To me, it does seem like there's a diversity. I'm not sure if Nancy Thames would agree with this or not, but to me, it seems like it is multifaceted, that there is many reasons for abductions, and many reasons for contact in general. I know in her case, I believe that she feels that a lot of her abductions are almost like checkups to see how she's doing, and they will, I think, run scans on her. And we can get her to talk about this if we can get her back. But it just does not seem like you could fit every abduction account into that box, in my opinion. I feel like there's too much differentiation. There's, for instance, some of the abductees that we've had on before, Karen Wilkinson, being down, in some kind of underground base, some kind of deep underground military base, where there's humans, there's all kinds of different races. Obviously, something, different is going on that isn't about simply a checkup in these cases, in my opinion. It seems like
right.
that they wouldn't be taking you down to a deep underground military base to do a checkup. But I don't know. We'll see what Nancy has to say on this. Hopefully we can get her back soon here.
Yes.
But what I was saying anyway, as far as the psionic ability of altering, their appearance, that they're doing either on the level of the brain or a consciousness, it's unclear. You do hear in a lot of abduction accounts the abductee, or breaking down basically the facade images that are projected into your consciousness. Sometimes just don't work, or sometimes it breaks down mid abduction, and I can think of one case where the conscious recall of the person was that they were driving in a car and they pulled up next to what looked like an odd looking police car with a police officer standing there, but had like weird
Hi, Nancy.
I got abducted.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah. Now I don't know what happened, but the internet just went out. I mean, out for a while. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm here. I'm persistent.
So, Jim, what was you just saying?
Yeah, I missed it.
So, I was just telling. This was actually a Preston Dennett story, I believe.
Yeah.
It demonstrated the holographic technology, or not holographic, but I think more of a kind of psionic ability on the level of your consciousness, or some kind of psychic projection of imagery into your brain, which kind of overlays over top what it really is. And this could be, yeah, you could be right that this is for a benevolent purpose. You know, I think another reason why that they don't want to scare us, not just because, you know, the emotions affect them, is they don't want to affect your daily life, you know, because like you say, you know, even if it is just the frequency, you know, the experiences can be terrifying, you know, and scary, you know, to the conditioned mind, you know.
Right.
And they might, you know, not find it favorable all the time, perhaps, you know, that we have conscious memory recall of everything, you know, especially the fear-based, you know, memories, because this will interfere in our daily life, you know.
Right. And they want us to be able to balance both worlds, because it's just as important, our human experience with our families, just as important as our, you know, our visitations with them, and they respect that fact. So yeah, there's a lot of things that they do. It is for our best interest, but a lot of people mistake these things and think that it's, you know, they've been, think that their free will has been stepped on. But what people don't realize is that, like I said earlier, that all of us made a choice to come to Earth, and we all have soul contracts. And that sounds weird to a lot of people, but the further we get through this evolutionary process and reaching higher levels of consciousness, these things are not going to seem so odd and weird to everybody, you know. And so we kind of have to give the world be a little patient, because some of us are going to wake up quicker than others, but everybody eventually will. And no, we're not going to run. Some of us are not going to be running off and leaving anybody. You know, it's just going to take longer. And what they're looking at is whatever the majority of the world waking up. And that will be determined on the fact of when they show themselves. But I assure you, they'll never show up on a White House lawn or anything like that. It will always be on their terms, on what they are comfortable with, you know. And they're not here to impress anybody.
And do you think that they recognize the legitimacy of our government? Do you think that they?
Oh, yes.
You think that they do recognize the president as being the truly democratically elected leader?
They know all of they look at it, I'm sure, like I do. They are temporary seat holders. They are reaching out to humanity. We're not going anywhere. We're going to always be here. We're bigger in size and number. So they're reaching out to humanity. So, you know, they play important roles, but I think it's pretty evident that our political, I don't want to get in trouble, get y'all in trouble or me in trouble, but it doesn't play as big a role as we reach higher levels of consciousness. We all realize they're temporary seat holders. And a lot of what happens in that arena is really not of our liking or choosing. So I think that's why they're reaching out to all of us, because we're not going anywhere. And we do have more of a say than what we think we do. We do. We are huge. And when we finally understand our potential, and that what coming together and with all of humanity working as one, and understanding our connection with our planet Earth in every living creature on this planet. We have all these positive forces working together, our planet Earth, all living creatures. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about our jungles, our mountains, our reefs, coral reefs, insects, plants, and we all come together. We're going to be unstoppable. It's amazing. I can't even I could see the visions of it, but it's hard to even explain. And I know that we can't do this overnight. That's pretty evident. But I think that we're going to start noticing changes. Our world is changing all around us. Our Earth is going through an ascension or an evolutionary process right now as well. This has been the most strange weather and occurrences this year. Things are happening really fast, and it's happening for a reason. Our planet is changing. We are changing. Everything is changing, and things are kind of like speeding up because it's part of all of our evolution.
Our perception of time seems to be speeding up.
Well, a lot of people think that it's like the end of days. It is the end of days as we presently know it. It is the end of dark forces and negativity, but it is not the end of us or the end of our planet. We are just moving into a new reality, a new way of thinking, a new way of living, and coming together as one. That's what a new birth is. The better versions of all of us, the better version of our planet Earth, the better version of all things that are connected. Because what could be better than all of us working together as one? I can't think of anything.
Nancy, let me ask this question.
Sure.
What, in your interpretation, what do these beings want?
They don't want anything. There's nothing that we could possibly give them other than our love.
But what
they don't need our resources. They had a part. The way they explained it to me, they played a part in our creation. They do not claim to be the creators of us. They believe in a creator source, and they all have souls. So they were here long before we were ever here on this planet. They played a role in our being on this planet and with all living creatures on it. So they see us as children. We are like children to them. So they've been watching over us all our lives. And this is finally, we're at the point to where we've reached a level of consciousness that is more relatable to them. And by doing that, we are raising our frequencies. And the further up the ladder that we raise our frequencies will be better matches to what theirs is. And then that fear factor will be eliminated at some point.
So
it's just all part of an evolutionary cycle of moving us up, going up the DNA ladder to get closer to them, to where they are. And, we are humans. They are what they are. They are not human. We are not extra. We have the DNA in us. We're a creation of many different species, not just one. So, but it gets us up closer to on the same level or frequency as them.
Do you have any direct information from your extraterrestrial or interdimensionals or whatever they are about the conglomeration of species that contributed to our DNA? Did they ever say anything about that?
I know where I go is a mothership. And on that mothership, I have 3 grays that come and get me.
Why don't you walk us through that? Why don't you walk us through?
Okay, so I have 3 grays, and I'm bonded with a female gray, and she's not gray. She's reddish blue.
Oh no.
I think they're listening, Jim.
Well, why don't we? Well, her internet might have dropped out again. She was talking about a reddish gray. A reddish brown gray. We have a clip. I believe you have that clip, right? That where Dan Barish, and I actually wanted to play this for her. but maybe we'll play it for the audience and we'll describe it to her. What Dan Burrish is talking about, a gray that is not gray, but was brown, and he describes it as ruddy, but the definition of ruddy is actually reddish. And I've always found that interesting, a reddish brown gray. I've never heard of that before until Nancy Thames brought up her gray, and I wondered if this was potentially the same species that Dan Burrish had contact with.
Well, let me go ahead and play that video, and we'll see here what Burrish was talking about.
The gentleman with which I was associated was approximately 3.5 feet tall. He had a dark brown appearance, very ruddy appearance to his skin. He was in a highly pressurized clean sphere. He exuded glycoprotein-like material through pores on his skin, which was associated with the neuritis, the neuropathy that we were dealing. 3.5 feet, large head in comparison to torso. So the ratio of the cranial to the torso area would be larger than what we would call a modern human being. Large, bulbous black eyes. The whites of the eyes had been selected out. So it looked like large people, basically. When you look into his eyes, you feel like you're going to fall into his eyes forever. And I think that probably had something to do with the telepathic nature of his mental structure. Large arms, 4 very thin, sinuous fingers, nails. His feet were unusual in that his the plantar area had a very large knob underneath what we would call our heel. His facial features were grotesque in comparison to what he showed me what normal would be. He was bilaterally symmetrical to the extent that the disease process was not changing his facial features. Nose was recessed, not a nose like we have, but basically two operculum, 2 orifices. An extremely small mouth, a hard palate, no teeth. His musculature, again, it was suffering from the problem at the myoneural junction.
So this was the species of gray that Dan Burrish had contact with. Just for information, if anybody's interested, there's interviews you can find of Dan Burrish, going through all of this. So he was a microbiologist at the S4 area at Area 51, which is roughly at the location of Area 51, but S4 is a kind of another sort of more higher secrecy location at the Area 51 area. And so he was a microbiologist, and they had this gray in their captivity since I think the 50s, according to his knowledge, which you never know, whether they're telling him the full truth or not. It was recovered from a crash landing in I think like 53. And I think like Kingston, Arizona or something like that, but don't quote me on that. And Dan Burrish, I believe it was during the 80s, they had this thing since the 50s until the 80s, and he was tasked to take skin samples.
Oh my goodness, I feel like a roller coaster. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, you had just said
Yeah.
appearance, and so we brought up a clip of a government insider named Dan Burrish who had described a gray who was of a reddish brown appearance.
Really?
So we brought up that clip just to
Jim, I can bring it back up real quick.
Oh,
Let me share the screen here.
oh, we don't have to play it if you. Okay.
The gentleman with which I was associated was approximately 3.5 feet tall. He had a dark brown appearance, very ruddy appearance to his skin. He was in a highly pressurized clean sphere. He exuded glycoprotein-like material through pores on his skin, which was associated with the neuritis, the neuropathy that we were dealing. 3.5 feet, large head in comparison to torso. So the ratio of cranial to the torso area would be larger than in what we would call a modern human being. Large, bulbous black eyes. The whites of the eyes had been selected out. So it looked like large people, basically. When you look into his eyes, you feel like you're going to fall into his eyes forever. And I think that probably had something to do with the telepathic nature of his mental structure. Large arms, 4 very thin, sinuous fingers, nails. His feet were unusual in that his plantar area had a very large knob underneath what we would call our heel. His facial features were grotesque in comparison to what he showed me what normal would be. He was bilaterally symmetrical to the extent that the disease process was not changing his facial features. Nose was recessed, not a nose like we have, but basically two operculum, 2 orifices. An extremely small mouth, a hard palate, no teeth. His musculature, again, it was suffering from the problem at the myoneural junction.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway, I mean, this might not align with the Greys that you've had contact at all, but
They're a little different. I noticed on that one it had like nails. They don't have nails, and and for me they feel like a dolphin. Their skin feels like a dolphin, and but the eyes and the things of that nature and the size of their head, the arms to me don't appear that large or anything like that. They're more in line with, in other words, they don't appear to be out of proportion to me. Right.
And the face of your Greys was pretty much the typical.
Different Greys. I've seen many different Greys, but they do have different facial features, but basically they're a lot the same, but some are a little more rounded. Some are like have a little more indentation, different little, not major things, but there are some.
Do some have more pointed chin areas?
Yeah, it's more narrow. Yeah.
What's
but
the difference?
There's over 60 different races of Greys. There's many different colors, many different heights. So the mothership that I go on, she is 4 foot tall. I'm taller than she is now. So she's about 4 foot tall. So where I go, she gets me on craft. And when I was little, she would have a handheld device and run it up and down, and it would vibrate my frequency. It was changing my frequency to match her frequency. And then she could take me by the hand and we could go up through the roof or through the door or through the window. And that was about changing the atoms in my body to do what she could do. So they basically changed me to their frequency, and then I could travel like them.
Just simply so that you could pass through the matter of the ceiling or the matter or whatever.
Yes. And that was a physical thing they were doing to me. It was not out of body. It was physical. I was literally going up through the ceiling and looking around, seeing things and touching her and feeling the temperature on her skin. And later, at the time when I was little, she didn't really explain to me, but later on, as I've been with them, they explained to me. But now a lot of times they will black me out and teleport me because they're further away. Now that there's more attention in the skies and stuff, their techniques have changed a bit.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Describe in full detail, because this is.
Well, like I said, I am at a higher frequency than I used to be. They gave me a Kundalini awakening 2 years ago, and that was a game changer for me. That really opened up my subconscious into my human consciousness, and I can recall every single visit I've had with them, and it helped me to remember my past life. And also, when I was 30, they opened up a vision and showed me myself being born, going through the process of agreeing and making the decision to come to Earth, and then telling me it's time, and then me watching myself as a interdimensional go through the process and taking my soul essence, and then how it went through to my mom into the fetus, and then I witnessed myself being born. So it's pretty amazing. They've been planning this for a very, very long time. Very long time. They knew way back that humanity was going to be going through this, and they approach people like they do me, but they also approach people in their dream states, because in our dream states we have less boundaries built around us, and they can really get in there and get a lot of information. They want to know what our spiritual levels are, what our evolutionary levels are, and we are the eyes to the world down here. So, for me, not only am I an experiencer with them, but I'm also, here I am telling humanity what all this is like, but also for them, I am an example to them of what it's like to be human. They know everything about humanity and human beings and what it's like to be here, and the whole human experience through my eyes and other people's eyes. So I kind of like, here I represent them to the world. There I represent human beings to all the different races. And they've had me give like blue orbs, and they've always told me choose the color blue. Blue is very important. It's a rare frequency, but it's also an essence of what Earth is, what we are. And I've experienced them giving me, or the female gray giving me orbs of blue orbs to give to the reptilian race, to give to humanoid races, to give to aquatic being races, because.
And what were these? What do you think what were these blue orbs? Like, what was
it is the essence of Earth and of the humanity. It's who we are. Do
you think it was?
We don't even understand who we truly are. We don't know our true origins. We don't really know all of our capabilities. They know. So, it's an amazing thing. And when I get up there, it's not just one or two races. There are many different races. We have lots of races up there, and all of them have been watching over us, and all of them have played a part in our creation. And we are a combination of probably over 30 or 32 different branches of extraterrestrials that are inside our DNA. That is the junk DNA that they will not tell us what it is.
Tell us about that. I think when they bring oh, is that audible? Are you guys hearing that? Okay.
He broke out. What was he saying, Tom?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. What was I going to say? Tell us about, so when they bring you up to the craft, and there's many species of extraterrestrials.
Yes.
There is kind of more of a primary species, the luminescent beings.
Yeah, the dimensionals are of about 8 foot tall, 8 foot tall. They are very luminescent. They are very, some people would call them shiny. Some people would call them opalescent, and they have some human-like features, but they are definitely not human.
What were the human-like features that were the same?
Well, I can see, they're luminescent, but I can see eyes, I can see a nose, I can see a mouth, I can see these things, but they're definitely not human. And I asked them, why do you look like you do, and grays look like they do, or reptilians look like they do, and humanoids look like they do? And they gave me an example that if they were to teleport me and you two guys, if they took us at our period of time, who we are right now, back to biblical times, and if they opened us up and we stepped out in front of the human beings at that particular biblical time, to those human beings, we would appear as the shiny ones, because we are of a much higher frequency than they are back then, and we would be the shiny ones to them. So what they're telling us is that we are on a DNA evolutionary ladder, and we are working our way up the ladder to become the beings that we are intended or created to be. And this is the biggest thing that's happened to us since our creation, and we are all part of it. And that's why we are the disclosure, because they've been here forever, even before us. And it will not matter what the government tells us, which they've really already told us and exposed to the world. If anybody does any research, the evidence is out there. But what's really the disclosure here is us figuring out who we are, what our potential is, and what our part is in the cosmic realms, because we're very important to them, as above, so below. They need us to ascend and become part of the family, because we're all one. And we're just now getting to this point in life. We're just now getting it. The information has always been there. We didn't get it, but we're getting it now. We are getting it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the luminescent beings.
Sure.
So did they give you any identifying information as to who they are, and what was their function in relation to you? And
Well, they are my family. They are my family. I was one of them before I came to Earth. My children were also part of that. And I know that when I die, I still have family up there. When I get up there, I have family that are up there. And I'm careful not to make too close eye contact, because I'm not ready to leave Earth yet, which they really don't. They're ready for me to come back. I'm missed there, but I'm not done here. And I have children here. I'm a grandma, I'm a mother, I'm an aunt, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, I'm all these things, just like any other human. And I'm not done here, but I do know that I have family there, and I'm very important and special to them. But they have lived much longer lifetimes than we do. 64 years is nothing to them. They live way, way much longer. So this is just a brief period of time. And I finally understand these things, where 20 years ago, I would have thought, anybody that told me that, I would have thought that was insane, just like some of the people listening. I understand that. I mean, that's part of our evolutionary process. We don't get these things automatically. It just has to grow with us, and we will figure it out. But this is a drop in the bucket. And when we leave this planet Earth, our soul and our consciousness goes on, and we experience many, many more lives, or experience many, many more things. And we have a bigger choice in those decisions. We can even stay in a non-physical form and be an etheric body, but we are basically immortal. This is a human experience. Well, this is temporary for all of us. And for me, that's a wonderful bit of knowledge to know.
Exactly.
And it's also good to know that we need to enjoy our experience here.
Right. If we only have knowledge. I've got the idea. You guys hearing me?
That's a wonderful. I mean, for me to finally know I'm not going to be 6 foot under the ground and worms crawling around on me. I was like, wow. My next question, though, was, why did I choose to come here? But I know why now, because I truly understand. We are unique and we are beautiful. And this has the potential to be the best experience ever. I mean, it's a beautiful planet, beautiful things. We just have to get it right. We just have to figure out who we truly are and what our purpose here. And our purpose, this generation, we're here to change the human experience into the better versions of humans, the better versions of the experience, and to get it right for our generations under us. You know, hopefully we'll get to see a good bit of these changes, and I hope that we get to see them all. But even if we don't, we are going to go down in history as being the ones that started making it happen for the world. This is a big deal. It's a very big deal. People don't even realize how big this is, but this is big, and we are all a part of it. And we need to all work on ourselves individually, figure out who we are, get in tune with our soul self, our subconscious. Ask your subconscious to open up into your human consciousness. Give it permission to take away all those boundaries and block things that may have occurred from trauma or whatever, and start getting in tune with who we are and work on being the better version of who we are. And then when we get that, we'll find that our family members will pick up on it, and it increases our frequency, and it feels really, really good. It feels really good. Your body rewards you from doing this, and you'll feel it, and you'll want to stay in that vibration or go even higher. You'll never go backwards. Never. It just don't work that way. It feels good, and your body rewards you. The world around you rewards you. More positive things occur, and it just gets better and better. But it starts with working on yourself individually. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious about. Am I coming?
Jim, you're coming through. It's just it's not a glitch on our side. It's definitely a glitch somewhere else.
Okay. I'm curious about some of the other extraterrestrials or interdimensionals you've
Sure.
had involvement with. So what about the reptilians? What's your perspective, and how is it different? I'm sure you've got a different perspective, radically maybe different perspective on the reptilians.
Well, I have met them. I have touched them. I have embraced them.
And what particular race was this? Like,
When I'm there, I don't say, what race are you? I mean, the interactions of a much more higher level of, and they do not use names. They do not label things. Everything's telepathic. Their frequency is their signature. You know, that is who they are. They don't, exchange names or anything like that. So, but he was in a uniform, so to speak, but he was like on the craft that I went on, he was in charge. It was his craft. That was his craft I was on.
What did the uniform look like? What?
Just tight knit suit, and I remember it having an emblem on it, but I couldn't tell you what it was now. I remember asking him to let me remember, because I was afraid at any minute that he might block me or whatever. And I said, "You are going to let me remember all of this?" And he said, "Yes." And we shook hands, did embrace hands and agreed upon it. So, yeah. And basically, it was a craft, it was a learning facility. And he basically told me, get to work. And, I was there to learn things. And I was learning like things on the ship, operations of a ship and things of that nature. So.
And how did he differ in terms of his demeanor? I mean, is there, something?
Well, the short grays are a lot of people think they are robots, but they're not. They're biological, but they come across as that because they're very task oriented and they have no emotions. They don't grin or smile. The reptilian, he did not grin or smile or anything, but he was very gracious. But he could also, I could sense inflection in his telepathic communication on, whether he was trying to emphasize something. I could tell he was making a point. If he wanted to be a little stern, I could tell. I could sense inflection in the messages. With the tall grays, they can be funny. It's not as funny or comical as humans, But the tall grays are a bit, they can try, they will even make jokes and stuff.
Give us an example of tall gray humor, or describe it in some kind of way. I'm curious about that.
Well, basically, most of them that are on that craft are either scientists or physicians. So basically, when I first get on craft, I'm going through a process of an exam, and then I'm through a process of like consultation, talking, and then that's when I see like a group that are watching and evaluating me. And that's where I think some of the family members are involved in that, because I can sense the energy and love. I can feel it. So, but basically, they can be funny. They can laugh. I can hear them kind of like, it's strange. It's like it's not coming from their mouth, but you sense that you can sense these things.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it to you. I've been around people that claim to be psychic here on Earth, but I don't feel any frequency, and I don't feel like I'm getting any messages from them. But when I'm on a craft, it is different. They're telepathic. They don't like all come at you all at the one time. It's like they have a different version of being telepathic. It's like everybody is on their own frequency, and you only hear what I don't know. It's better organized, I guess, because that's the only place I've ever experienced being around somebody where I was getting the message and they were hearing me, So, but I don't know. It's very different than how we do it, but they are of a much higher level of consciousness and a much higher frequency. So that's, they have more control over these things, and we are just starting to understand these things. And all of our food, our air, our water, everything has toxins in it, and that's part of something that was done intentional to keep us dumbed down. And it prevents our pineal gland has crystallized, and it's non-functional in human beings, and that's because of all the toxins and stuff. And now that we're waking up, these things will start to activate, and we're going to start becoming, all of us, in a slow process, but all of us in different ways. It will start to activate. More of us will be intuitive or notice synchronicities. Our awareness will start seeing more things in our skies, because they are not hiding from us. They're everywhere in our skies, in our solar system. It's because of our visual range. We can only see certain things, but they are there. And they've showed me, they can be in a room with me and I not see them, but they have proved to me, and they have taken a clock that was run on batteries and moved it around to 4:00 and then stop, and then move it around to 4:00 over and over to let me know they can be wherever. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean that there's not a whole life or world going on around us. We can just visually see what's in our visual range of being in 3D, but that is changing. It is opening up, and we're going to start to see more things in the extraterrestrial world and the paranormal field.
Why do you think they chose 4:00?
Chose what?
Why do you think they chose 4:00 when they moved the clock? Is there any?
I don't know. I really don't know. But they did it 3 or 4 times, and it was like, okay, I get it. And they've moved other things around to let me know that they're present around me. They know everything, and they tell me sometimes when I'm having an experience, they'll just start addressing an issue that I'm like. For me, I'm single. I've been single for a long time, and for me, I wanted to understand a soulmate. I don't understand, and it's really bothered me on a human level. Like, why do some people find their soulmate and I've never been able to? And so immediately when I was on craft, the interdimensional starts talking to me about soulmates, and my whole perception of what a soulmate is was totally wrong, for one. And then, and as he was saying, he could be my soulmate. Anyone could be my soulmate. It doesn't have to be a physical romantic partner. A soulmate could be male or female, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a sexual relationship. It can be many other things. And, I always related it to a physical, sexual type relationship as being a soulmate, that, you kind of like bond as one type thing, but I was looking at it wrong, and he pointed that out to me very clearly.
And did they also give the suggestion that, and this is what I've thought about soulmates, that the people that are around you, right now in your life, or your family or your friends, tend to be your soulmates, that, you're
a lot of times they are, because I know that my children are here with me in this life, but they were with me on craft and in that reality. And I remember a lot of times in my dreams and different things, it's either our past, or actually sometimes, I'm going to be quite frank with you, my son and I have this discussion all the time, and that's what's so beautiful about having a family member to have these discussions with, which I did not have in my life when I was younger. I was on my own. But sometimes we wonder if, because they do live much longer lives than we do, he and I and my other son, the three of us, are actually in a sleep stasis on craft. And down here, this is the dream.
That's interesting.
Because our dream state is sometimes more active and more enlightening than our life here, because here it's work, eat, play, sleep over and over. You know what I mean? We're in like a program here on Earth. So our dream states of being up on there is quite different. Very quite different. Yeah,
they're almost kind of, in many senses, kind of deeper and more containing meaning.
Yes. And they give me glimpses of these things because I need these things to have that to look forward to, and also to understand what it's like to be here. And this is temporary, and things aren't as bad as they seem at times, because there's more to who we are than just what's going on right here and right now. We have everything in the world to be happy about and look forward to, but we don't know a lot of these things. And it's because we've been embedded with fear, scared to understand the unknown, scared to know who we are, and we can change all these things, and we can enjoy this life much, much better. Just knowing the simple truths about simple things like who we are, what happens when we leave here, simple things that we have been denied, but that can make all the difference in how we live our lives, I think.
Yeah. So, Nancy, how are we supposed to know ourselves?
You have to meditate to your subconscious. Meditate. Ask your subconscious to open up into your human consciousness. Reveal itself. Work with you. We are going through a world that is changing. We are changing. Ask it to help you, and it will. It will. And it will. Your subconscious knows so much. It knows your past, and it knows everything about you, what your agreements were, what your purpose here is. Get in tune with your inner self, your soul self.
Okay, so when you ask the question, and I believe that is valid, ask and you shall receive is this really kind of iron law, universe. How and in what form do the answers come? Through synchronicity, or what else? As far as
it can happen that way. There's, the world is a very strange place, and it has ways of indicating to you. You have to be aware of when these things happen. A lot of times, simply seeing a red bird, okay, and you think, oh, there's a red bird, but maybe there's some meaning there that you didn't understand. you know, so as our awareness increases, our intelligence increases, we will pick up on these things more readily. We will understand more. So that's why they say to me, the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials, be patient, let evolution do its job, work on being a better version of yourself, and all these questions, all these things we need to know will be answered within our own subconscious, because there's so much knowledge in there. There really is.
I have something to mention real quick when you said
Sure.
red. So I write down my synchronicities. I have a little synchronicity journal.
Awesome.
And on the 31st of July, I only had 2 synchronicities that day. One was your last name, but not you, but the river. I think the river. There's a river.
Yes, that's how you pronounce my name. Yeah.
That came up at least 3 times that day, and I wrote it down. Like, this is a synchronicity. I knew I was having you on as a guest, and then the other thing that came up was a cardinal right at 111. I saw a cardinal. I had a feeling that, I don't know why, but I had a feeling that there was something about the cardinal, and I do recognize a cardinal in particular.
And I just mentioned the redbird.
Right.
And my last name is Tim. So there's your synchronicity right there. This is their way and the universe's way of telling you there's more to this world than what we know. We have to open up and start noticing these things. And it's wonderful that you keep a journal, because that means you're starting to get in tune with yourself. You're paying attention. And that is the key to reaching ascension and becoming the better version of you. That's awesome. Yeah.
And I found that, after doing this for years, I mean, how it can expand, how the level of communication, let's say, how it expands is really extraordinary. Like what can come through that channel of synchronicity can be really detailed and informative.
Well, the more in tune we get with our inner soul self, we become a magnet to the beautiful, positive things around us. Opportunities, doors open up. These things are drawn to each other, and we all work together in support of each other, because we are all one. And see, now all of this oneness is starting to meld together, and it's just going to get better and better. So you're already starting to see it, whether you realize it or not. It's already happening to you. That's amazing. I'm glad to know that. That makes me feel good, because that's part of this is, each person, not everybody's going to understand or get all this. And I know this, but when somebody does, that's everything to me. That's beautiful. That's part of the reason I'm doing this. That's why y'all are doing these podcasts, is to help people, because we are an extension of what we want the rest of the world to be. And if we want the world to change, it starts within and with us. So by extending ourselves and starting this, who knows what we're sparking in other people? At least I hope, So it's amazing. And that's why I keep saying we are the disclosure, and we are all a part of this, because we are all one. And when we all work together, opportunities and things will be drawn to us like magnets. It will be beautiful.
And getting back to synchronicity has a way of opening us up to that. I've speculated on that the purpose of synchronicity, on some level, maybe in the beginning though only, synchronicities like 1111, seeing that kind of open us up to this intuitive dimension of things.
Yes.
I kind of feel like 1111 in particular is like this introduction to the universe almost, and it's this reaching out to you, and you'll see it in a pattern, because your rational brain will doubt it. You'll see the room, and you'll see 1111 on the clock, and you think, oh, that's weird. But then it happens again, like the next day. And then you start to realize, wait a minute, it is something weird going on here. And it kind of
Trying
breaks.
to tell you something. Yeah.
It will sort of break. And after so long, it will really transform you, your perceptions of things and the world around you. You start to realize is not random anymore, and everything.
Exactly. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So just because we like to focus a lot on the ETs on the show, could we come back to again because I'm intrigued by the fact that you had contact with a lot of extraterrestrials.
Yes.
I'd like to get the details of some more species that you came into contact with.
Okay. The aquatic beings are very different, and from what my experience is, they don't like to interact with human beings that much. They really don't like to have eye contact. And basically, I was ignored. I was on with a group of explorers, which were many different races. And what was happening was they were looking for creatures that had jumped into the wrong dimension and were at a place creating havoc. So, for example, like a chupacabra or a Bigfoot or any type creature, and it was creating havoc. Like, say, it could be here on Earth, or it could be on another planet or somewhere else. And so what they were doing was looking for these creatures. They would locate it, and then they would all come together, locate it, and then we would go to it, and then their team of I don't know exactly what they were, except explorers, biologists, combinations, I guess. But they would go get the creature, contain it, and then take it to a different location. So what I learned from that was a lot. And I have seen a Bigfoot before, but I do know that they use these different beings for, because there are different type of creatures. There's creatures in our waters, creatures in our air, there's creatures everywhere. So, for example, if they will protect a Bigfoot from a human invasion, and they will protect humans from a over curious Bigfoot. So a lot of times people will see a UFO in the vicinity of seeing a Bigfoot, and that's because they're monitoring they're monitoring the relationship and trying to see what kind of interaction, what the possibilities are, and if there's anything negative that could or would occur, they're going to move one or the other and stop that from happening. Yeah.
And do you?
But if the Bigfoots are in the woods and not bothering anybody, and say they do meet some humans and the relationship works out okay, they would never interfere with something like that. It's only when they're not going to let something negative occur. Let's put it that way.
So you said that they'll in some cases actually remove the Bigfoot. Do you think
they'll relocate them either to further back into the woods or take them back to where they came from, because they're interdimensional beings too?
And do you think this explains the sightings that people have had with Bigfoot, suddenly dematerializing or disappearing into thin air? That could be potentially what's going on there.
Yes, absolutely.
Getting back to the aquatic beings, I've heard there's multiple contactees and abductees who have mentioned an aquatic.
Well, I think that's probably the next thing that our government, or I know in MUFON, they have their own master dive team, master divers, and their role and function is to explore any bodies of water, because there's so much activity in our oceans are the least explored thing on our planet. And my son just he's working on becoming a master diver. He's doing the work and stuff. So, and that's what his interest is looking for, civilization's life under our bodies of water. And so I think that is going to be the next big thing on the scientific end of things. And I think even probably NASA is probably going to start focusing in more on, exploring our underwaters and stuff more.
And so you think these aquatic beings are on the Earth, that they have bases or
Absolutely, yeah.
the ocean. Now, what was their appearance? I've heard of an aquatic species that people have mentioned, not very often, but that they seem almost like they could be related to dolphins.
Well, a lot of people think that the grays evolved from a dolphin, which they do feel like a dolphin. Grays feel like a dolphin, but that is because of their color, and they're associating the color. So their anatomy is very different. Of course, I think they're their own species, but I do know that octopus, whales, and dolphins all have a much higher frequency than human beings, and they have a connection and understand their connections with us. They understand their connections with our planet Earth, and they understand their connections with the cosmic realm, which we're working on getting to that point. But I've been in bodies of water with dolphins, and they pick up on my frequency big time, and they do with my children. As a matter of fact, even the most trained dolphins, when we are around, they will break from their trainers. No matter how many years they've been trained, they will break and they will come to us.
Really? And so that's how I was going to ask you. They pick up on your frequency. How did
Absolutely.
they break away from the trainers and they come over to you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
It's amazing. So I have a real fascination, and as a matter of fact, people have asked me, if you were going to come back to Earth, reincarnate here, what would you be? I would want to be a dolphin.
Some people have said that, I don't know if you've ever heard anything about this, that the government, the shadow government, doesn't want us to have contact with dolphins, and that there are laws in some places that you cannot swim with dolphins, oddly. That, seemingly, ostensibly might be, for the protection of the dolphins, but some speculate, and some insights.
It's because they are highly evolved, highly conscious beings. And when we reach a level, we're going to start having, probably telepathic communication with them and stuff. And they don't want that to occur because they don't want us to evolve to that level, because dolphins are highly intelligent and they know everything about this planet. They were here probably before we were, and they probably were seated here just like we were.
And they could potentially raise your frequency. Isn't vibration and frequency? There's an aspect of this that is, if you're in the vicinity of someone of a higher consciousness,
Yes.
Your consciousness and energy level and frequency could be.
Yes, you're drawn to that higher frequency, and your body will want to match that frequency, and it will work at trying to reach that level, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. It feels good. It really does. You know how people that go running for long periods of time and they get that adrenaline rush? That's what raising your frequency feels like. It does. It feels good. It's like your body rewards you. And, it's like I said, once you start raising your frequency, you like it, and you will keep going forward. You will not go backward, because it's not, it's not a good feeling. And that's just like with the extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. They don't like that feeling. And so they eliminate it and block it. And we will learn to start eliminating and blocking. We will walk away from people we love. We will walk away from the television if it starts trying to interfere with our good vibrational frequency. We will walk away. That doesn't mean that you start loving a person. You can still love somebody, but you might not want to hear the negativity, and you'll simply walk away. And either they'll have to learn to change and raise their frequency, or they're going to get left behind, and there's going to be no interest, or you know what I'm saying? They won't get to interact with you as much, and they'll have to change.
Mm-hmm. Yes, interesting. Todd, let's do something fun. Why don't you bring up our pictures? And I'm curious whether you've ever seen any of these species. These
Okay.
are drawings that come from abductees. And it would be interesting to know. I've been curious about this one particular species that's kind of rare that some people see, that they're almost smaller than the small grays, okay? And some people almost say that they have a comical look to them. They look almost like a Disney character, and they're brown, but sometimes...
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think they were in communion. They're like little trolls, kind of little dark brown trolls like thing. I forgot what they're called. No, I've not seen any of those.
You have not seen any of them, and they have the wrinkled brows.
No.
And
but that could be a holographic projection like you were talking about, you know.
Yeah, you don't know ever, you know, if it's a holographic projection. Or
you know, and sometimes, you know, when these things occur to us, when these things happen, sometimes our perception is quite different as we mature and move on. Like for Whitley Strieber or even Travis Walton, what they experienced at their time, now that they're older, it's totally different. The way that they, you know, their stories are quite different from what it was originally.
Mm-hmm. So here it looks like we've got some hybrids.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, those would not be human hybrids, though. Those would be, they could be a hybrid, a created biological hybrid, which I think I don't know why I say I know that the female gray that I embodied with it, she is a hybrid, but she was created by the tall grays and the interdimensionals, and they created her and worked her DNA because extraterrestrials and interdimensionals have a problem with the density. This is the densest place of all planets. They have a problem with the density. It's not preferable, so they created a little worker hybrid and she basically does all the leg work, and she does the back and forth, and then they just stay up on craft and let her do the back and forth. So that's something that a lot of people probably don't know either. Some people, I call her, I can see her, I love her. So to me, she's like a nanny or a guardian or something like that. Some people refer to them as handlers. I don't like that term. Yeah, there's a reptilian. Yeah. Now there's a uniform that's similar, but I don't remember. It looks like that one's got a robe on maybe, but I don't recall that. But I've seen grays wearing the robes and high collars, and they were about 3 foot tall. And
Let's stay on this one though. Does that gray, that reptilian on the bottom, does that face at all seem like it does look similar? Okay.
It does.
If these are
and the body frame and everything. Yeah.
It looks like the one above there to the top left of the one that's got the uniform has got more of a snout.
Yeah. Yeah, that I don't recall that.
That looks different then. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And we do have, and have you ever seen these rods that some grays have?
Yeah, that's what they use to change your frequency.
And that's what they look like, thin, almost like a pen or something.
Yeah, they'll take it and doesn't touch your body, but it will go up and down from your toes to your head. And that is how they increase your frequency to match their frequency. And that's how they'll take you by the hand and take you up through the roof or ceiling. Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder how that is it. So, and then eventually your frequency lowers back down though. So
yes,
like,
but I think that's part of the, that vertigo feeling, you know, it's kind of like, you know how when you're a little kid and you start spinning around, and then when you stop, you just like want to fall, like, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Move on to another picture. Okay. Here's the ones. he refers to them as the blues, because sometimes they are blue, but most of the abductees that I've heard that have had contact with these, they're brown.
Yeah.
But they could be the
Yeah.
same.
I have not seen those, but yeah, that doesn't mean anything. There's so many different types. I've seen types that people don't even talk about here. You know, like they could be human from the waist up, and then animal like from the waist down. You know.
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting about these. Oh, go back to just had a interesting detail. I was just reading an abductee count of these guys, and what he found odd was they took him into the craft, and they sort of gave him like a tour, and it felt like he was being invited into their home.
Yeah.
And it was odd to him because there was some like jumpsuits, like the tight-fitting jumpsuits that they wear, that were just like laying about. And he wondered, like, why aren't they hung up?
Yeah, I don't know why that would be, but a lot of times people think they're not wearing clothes, but they actually are. They'll have very tight fitting, and it usually matches the color of their skin. And but a lot of people say, well, oh, they're naked, but they're not. They're not naked.
Yeah. And sometimes these.
But you have to understand too, some of them, that craft is their home. You know, they travel all over different universes and stuff. Sure, at one point they came from a particular planet, perhaps, or yes, they did. But also, a lot of them may never even live anywhere other than the craft, you know, and they may just stop and visit and go down and check out different places, but they live on their motherships. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, you never really think of that as their home, but yeah, I mean, it is.
The little smaller craft are their explorers, or their, you know, that's what they kind of like our little cars or whatever, but they have the big motherships. Yeah.
I thought it was your case where they would pick you up in a smaller craft and take you to a larger craft, right?
Yes.
And let's talk about that real quick before we move on to the pictures, because this is something that I wanted to bring up that's interesting, that I just don't understand. It perplexes me. They would bring you into a larger craft, which you deemed was about roughly the size of like half of a football field.
Yes. As I'm getting to craft, I look at it, and sometimes I'm in a smaller craft, or sometimes she's leading me through the air to a craft if it's close by. And it looks like about half the size of a football field. But the minute that you step into the craft, whoa, it's like walking into a different dimension, and it's huge. Yeah.
And you hear this a lot. Like I listened to an abductee who walked into a small little egg-shaped craft, and then when he got in it, it was much bigger than it seemed on the outside.
Exactly.
So, what is going on there in terms
there's a couple of things I can explain to you. You know, you and our technology is a separate entity, a separate device than us, right? Like I'm talking to you through my technology, that laptop. You're talking to me through your computer or laptop, okay? In their reality, keeping in mind they're billions of years ahead of us in terms of evolution, there is no separate entity when it comes to technology. Their higher consciousness is part of them. That is their technology. They can manifest anything they want. That is how they travel through space. That is, they can manifest what they want or need. You know, in other words, when they get in a craft is a living conscious being. Okay. It's not like we go out here and have to turn a key or whatever, you know, because it's a separate entity. Their craft is a living conscious being. And when the pilot, who is genetically designed to be a pilot, and they are bonded like I am bonded with my female gray, it's just a bond. Nobody can do anything about that or change it or whatever. We are bonded. That pilot is bonded with that craft. Nobody else can fly it. So when the pilot, he or she, gets in, their telepathically, their brains, their consciousness connect. And the pilot will think of the destination, and then the craft, bam, they go through the higher levels of consciousness. That is, they do not have propulsion or useful fuels or anything like that, because they are evolved way, way ahead of us. They are their technology, and they are not AI. They are biological beings.
Yeah, I think that does offer some explanation for that.
We will never be able to reverse engineer their craft to the point of where we're actually flying it, because people think that they can get in and just put their hands down and use our lower consciousness of telepathy, but it is no match, because it has nothing to do with the hands. It has nothing to do with our level or human thinking. We are not evolved to that point. So, but they are, and they can do things that we just don't understand. Our physics does not apply. We try to humanize things and understand them, but they are not human, and they are billions of years ahead of us in evolution, and they do not do things like we do. They are not human, and they are way above. There is no negativity or wars or any of these type of things. So, we try to think everything is like us, but it's not. It is just simply not. And that's a big problem that humans have. We want to rationalize by thinking that we can think on their level. We cannot. We've got a long ways to go. And that's nothing to be scared of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our egos are just way too big. And that's one thing that we've got to lose is our egos.
Right. And we shouldn't be scared of that. And
right.
I mean, we're scared of that because it's like our identity, but it's not real identity. There's
nothing wrong with being afraid,
mm-hmm.
but you have to be able to accept the fact that you are afraid, then work from there. It's okay to be afraid, but a lot of men and a lot of women are ashamed to admit their fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's part of our programming. And that's what keeps us in a lower level of consciousness. So we've got to understand the programming and break free of the programming,
Mm-hmm.
and we're naturally going to have a negative thought, but we recognize it and replace it with 2 positive thoughts. We take control of our programming and take charge of it and not let it manipulate us. And because that's all those things were done to do that to us, because that's where they want to keep us. But we are breaking free, and we're learning how to do it. It's going to be exciting.
What about the Nordics? Have you had any experiences or interactions with the Nordic-like beings, the tall, blonde-haired?
Yeah, I have interactions with humanoids, and they're tall and they're blonde, but I don't ask them. And you have to understand, our terminology is not, they do not use terminology like we do. They do not have names. They do not put labels on things like we do. They do not call themselves the Galactic Federation. They do not call themselves all these different things. In their reality, to individualize something breaks the oneness connection. They would never do that. They do not do that. And that's why you see people writing all these books, telling all these stories, putting names, saying they talk to so-and-so, so-and-so. They don't use those names. Now, whether they're making up the names or whether in their perception of their channeling or whatever, they're using a name because that's what they've got to tell people or whatever. But in reality, those extraterrestrials and interdimensionals, they do not use names and they do not label things, because they are who they are, and their frequency is their signature and who they are, and it's unique, like our fingerprints.
Yeah, and a lot
We're
of times,
verbal and vocal, and we have to put names on and everything. That's a human constructed thing, just like time. There is no such thing as time. But in our reality, time is very important. But it's also a way of getting people to work, make money, be part of a program. So you have to learn to break these things down and see it for what it is, and it's a process.
yeah, I know there's some occasions where, the contactee or abductee will ask the ET, and the ET will provide a name, but it will specify, this isn't, what I call myself, but I will provide a name to you just because,
Yeah.
you need a name.
Yeah, because I guess, well, sometimes we come up with the name, but they never even give a name. But in a way, I kind of have a hard time believing that they might do, I don't know. That's kind of, I have a lot of questions about that because, for example, I can give you, like they took me before what I called a group of elders. And that is who showed me the visions of myself being born here on earth and myself making a choice to come to earth. But here's the question. Did they call themselves elders, or was that my perception? And I'm not, these people, they're not lying. I'm not saying they're lying or necessarily doing it on purpose. Our brains will try to rationalize these things in our mind to help us understand our experiences. So I'm not saying that anybody's doing anything on purpose. I imagine some people are, but not everybody. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, like I said, me calling them elders. Now that I know what I know, I don't know that that's what they said or if that's what I perceived. Yeah.
It's really hard to grasp, making that transition to like no conceptual thing. Well, is it are they doing much less conceptual thought than we are? Like not just with names, like labels of themselves, but we attach labels to everything, and that's one of the things that kind of separates us from the real.
The separation is not connected. So see that's in our programming. Yeah.
Labels that kind of separates us from real contact with reality.
Yes.
A lot of spiritual teachers, illustrate and mindfulness practice and things like that.
They don't eat like we do. They call food nutrients. They will enrich their bodies with nutrients. And these are mixtures of nutrients, vitamins, or, whatever. They do not sit down and eat like we do, like two vegetables and a meat. Their version is, it's not a act of art or love or anything like that. It's simply, they may eat like as their body needs it, maybe once every 4 days or whatever their metabolism needs. And they do not sleep like we do. We require a lot more sleep, but a lot of that is because of the toxins in all our food. They would not eat our food or drink our water. And they certainly are not the ones that have done any of the cattle mutilations. Too many toxins are put in, and they do not eat meat. They make a consistency of nutrients, and they'll put that in their body. Now, the humanoids, they can let it dissolve in their mouth, or they can drink it in a liquid, whatever, however they want to do it. The grays will make a paste of nutrients, and they will rub it into their skin, and it absorbs in. And then the way that they get rid of their waste is it comes out through their skin, and that's the way the Greys do it. And I would imagine the reptilians do it that way too. Don't know everything about the reptilians, but I do know they're not what everybody thinks they are. You know,
they're not meat eater. A lot of people, you know.
Oh, no. They're just like the reptiles here on, you know, they're vegetarians and stuff. But now a Grey could take a tablet form and let it dissolve, like in their, you know, it could dissolve, but they prefer to do the rubbing on the skin. And like I say, they don't eat 3 times a day like we do. Once in a blue moon, when their body needs it, then they do. And when they retire their vessel or their ET suit, or like we call ours a vessel or a human suit or meat suit, whatever we want to call it. For us, you know, it's a very mournful whatever. For them, it is not a, you know, there's never a period of missing anyone because they know ahead of time and they create a new vessel. And it takes about 3 days for them to construct it. And then they just simply slip in, and there's no time, you know, no missing, no time lapse or anything. So it's just like, for example, you know, when those Greys crashed at Roswell, you know, people think, well, what about those poor missing bodies? Well, those bodies went directly to source. And it most likely what happened was that was done on purpose. It was a gift to humanity to let us retain some technology, because they know what death is, and they already had suits ready, new vessels. So when that crashed, they just simply went into their new ones. So those bodies were, their souls had already gone.
Yeah, and there have been people, that have suggested that it was a deliberate seeding of technology, and
yes, but things had to be done at those particular times because that's the only way humans could understand it without freaking out. But they say that there was one that made it through a crash, and that's probably true as well. I don't, the J-Rod, that. And I believe that's true, and I believe that he had a lot to do with probably opening up some communication or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would be nice to know the truth of all these different things that have occurred, and I think that we need to be a forgiving nation, because at the periods of time that these things happened, things were done which were not necessarily the right thing, but they thought it was at the time. And regardless of whether it was or not, it occurred. There's nothing we can do about it now. But it has, all of these things have been done and happened, and it has made us who we are today. And it's who we are today is what matters, with our new intelligence and the information that we are learning. The decisions we make from here on out are the ones that are most important. We don't forget the past, but we certainly don't want to repeat any of that. But we should have respect for it, because that's who we are today. It made us who we are. Yeah,
and that's why history is so important.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like we're trying to erase history.
And they shouldn't do that.
Right? If we do, then it's inevitable that we're going to repeat it. So yes,
yeah,
I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's we've got a lot to learn, and I think we're finally getting there. we've had a lot of information that was straight in our face, but we didn't get it. We didn't pick up on it, but we are now. We're getting it, and there's a reason for it. We have to go through this evolutionary process to maintain our human species for future generations, so that we don't wipe ourselves out. Or I don't think they would let us wipe ourselves out. As a matter of fact, I know they wouldn't, but we could do a lot of damage that would change our quality of life and suffer for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we need to make sure it does not happen that way.
Yeah, we definitely, as a species, have a lot to learn. It's I don't know how. I don't know how people would ever come together. It's going to be the select few, to be honest with you, people like yourself, because of how people are. It's our nature to want to blow stuff up and kill stuff, and and we need to definitely separate ourselves from that. And I don't know how we would have entire populations get back to we need to love each other.
Well, there's a lot of indigenous people still on this planet, and there's a lot of people that are unaware of some of this technology that we have and what we could potentially do. So there's a lot of innocent bystanders. We tend to think, we only think about us and what we know and our technology, but there's a lot of humanity are not on that level. So extraterrestrials and interdimensionals look at this from a much higher perspective and understanding than we do, where we don't see where humans can do this, that, or the other. We see it as a negative aspect. They see it differently, because they're looking down and seeing all of us, that we only see what's around us, but they see the whole picture, and they see the potential in us. And they certainly have me seeing it. So I think we can. And, from everything they taught me, we kind of create our own reality. So if we want positive and good things to occur, that's the reality we create. If you want to sit around and be negative and think negative things, that's what you're going to be. That's what your life is going to be. That's what's going to be attracted to you.
Right.
So we have a lot more control than what we realize. So we have to think outside our little box. We have to get outside and think about the larger pictures of things, because this is a big old wide world, and it's got a lot of water on it, but there's a lot of people on it too. And we are all different, and so many are innocent to what's even going on in the world. So I don't know. You just got to look at it the best thing to do is look at it from different perspectives. And I think that's one reason why they wanted me to live different places, or to go and be around some indigenous people in different things, because a lot of indigenous people actually had it right, and I think even in our older days, a lot of our ancestors had it right. But then something happened, and all this programming came in and putting the value on all this work and making money and, keeping up with the Jones and technology, blah, blah, blah. And we lost focus and quit living a perfect human life, where family was everything, So I don't know. I think that we just need to quit thinking negative, period, and work at being better human beings, and let evolution run its course. And then always know that if we're doing our part and working at these things, they are watching us, and they will assist us. They will not fix everything. But if we're making efforts, that will stand out in their eyes as being, and it will raise our frequency. And that's what they're looking for, is for us to make an effort.
And it kind of
be perfect. We'll never be perfect,
Right. And I'm seeing, like, technology is a great thing. It truly is, but it's a double-edged sword as well, because we are bombarded on a constant basis of politics, of all this bad stuff happening, car wrecks, murders. I mean, that is where it would need to change. The whole media outlook. I mean, not so much. It would definitely have to be. It would have to be some way to get rid of media, so that we're not being conditioned and programmed to believe everything is really bad and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, how do we do this? I mean,
we turn the TV off. For me, I do not pay for cable. I do not listen to any news. I have Prime Video and Netflix and Paramount, which are very inexpensive, and I pick and choose what I want to watch.
Right.
I don't watch, the negative things. I don't watch anything that I pretty much know what's out there to put negative thoughts and stuff. So I have other way, I'll listen to music, or I will read the book, or I will do a hobby or whatever, so let's put it this way. I have grandchildren, okay, a 3-year-old grandson. And if he's being ugly and he's doing something that trying to get attention, if I don't correct him, or if I keep pay attention to him doing these things, he will continue to do it. But when I take my focus off of him, don't give him any attention, he'll stop. So it's kind of like the news. As long as they've got the viewers watching and listening, they got you, okay? But the minute that people stop not wanting to, just not watching it or anything, it will cease to exist, because there's nobody for them to entertain. This is how it's going to work, is that we're just going to have to learn to turn on and turn off negative aspects around us.
Right.
And other people will come up with better ways to entertain humans that are pure and positive.
Right. But it also, let's just cut media out for right this second.
Okay.
You drive down the street, someone has road rage. Now, it's not just affecting you, it's affecting everybody. You walk into a store, you can feel the energy's just not good, but you still need to pick stuff up. So now you're being bombarded there too. So it's so complicated. It's not easy to go someplace with good good positivity when you're being bombarded with negativity all the time.
Negative things are going to always occur until we get to a certain point. So the way that you deal with that is that when you sense something, you back out and leave. That's the good thing about raising your frequency, is our intuition, our awareness is going to increase. We will learn to know ahead of time that we'll feel that energy, that negative energy, and we will remove ourselves from it.
Yes. And that's the hope for someone like you, myself, Jim, others out there, but it
still will be there. Nothing can change or fix everything, but we have to learn to recognize. And, if there's a part of town that this kind of things are happening, drive 10 extra miles if you have to. If you can't, try to do without going in. Make wiser choices.
Yes.
That's what intelligence is giving you the chance to make wiser and better decisions, you know.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's not something that can happen overnight, and nothing can be fixed totally. It's a process, and it starts, like I said, within learning to pay attention to the world around you and understand that there's things going on all around you, and that we can pick and choose where we want our energy, you know, where we want to focus it or not focus it.
Right. And you know, that makes perfect sense. And you know, for the most part, we all try to have that day, you know, or days. Like you said, it's all how you perceive things. You know, if you go out and you somebody's having a bad day and you let it affect you, then absolutely. I mean, it's gonna not be a good day.
You have to set a boundary, or what I do is I set a boundary around me. Okay. People will try. I mean, it's just like in our Facebook groups, we have trolls that come in. Some of them even get paid to come in and do these things in these groups. So you have to understand their perspective and what they're doing. You cannot feed into that injury. You keep your boundary. And you'll understand what I'm trying to say is that when they figure out that nobody is going to feed in to them or pay attention to them, then they have nobody to entertain to anymore. They will move on to somewhere else or find something else to do. So it's kind of just like treating them like you do a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old. You know, you cannot give in, because then that's what they were trying to do, is feed off of your energy.
And I think that is where people like yourself that have contact with extraterrestrials, I think this is where you and others like you are more not blessed, but you're
in tune.
Yes. They know that you're that way, and that's why they reach out to those like yourself.
I would say that I was just like any other human being, but they have worked with me for 64 years and got me to this point. And what I'm doing now is teaching other people how to do this. I'm helping, I'm not making any money off of this. This is to help humanity. Humanity has been programmed. Humanity automatically thinks negative things. Humanity, a lot of people's belief systems, they don't want to change or step outside of that. I'm here to help people understand and gap the bridge between the reality of being in a program world, stepping out, facing your fears, finding out there was nothing to be scared of in the first place. But in our brains, it perfectly was. And some of us have experienced extreme fear. I have myself. But I also found out that by extending myself out and experiencing it, I learned to control it myself. I didn't let it continue to control me and stop me from enjoying my life and my experiences, because then it won. It served its purpose. I'm here to tell the world we don't have to live like that. We can change this program. We can change our fear into an experience of understanding we are no longer going to be controlled or manipulated. We are going to learn from the past and become the human beings we were created to be. That is what we're going through. This is our evolution. We are the disclosure, because we are going to figure out we have a lot more control and say over who we are than we've ever realized since we were born. And this goes way back, way back. And a lot of people are programmed to be negative individuals and do horrible things that they really didn't even want to do, but society pushed them into it. We have to learn to recognize this manipulation and what it has done to us. And when we do, and I understand that I am at a higher frequency, I understand that everybody's not on that same frequency. But I also understand we all have the capability of changing, and we all are going to change into some capacity of being a better human. So I will never say that all of us won't change, because we are all human beings. And this, what affects one affects all, because we are all connected. And even if people don't want to change, they're going to change, because the world around them is changing. We are all changing, and we are all changing into being a better version of a human being.
Right.
We just need to be patient and let evolution run its course. I really think that.
And see, that's why we talk to people like yourself, because you have the story. You have had contact with these beings.
Yes.
We want to help get that story out to others.
Exactly.
Yes. So we are basically on the same page. You might have more frequencies, things like that, which is great, because that allows us to send the message on and continue that.
Because we all can do this. We can all do this.
Yes. Jim, you have anything you want to say?
No, I think that's maybe a conclusion point, since we're already.
Yeah. Well, Nancy, I want to thank you so much for.
Thank you for having me. I love this, and I hope that I helped, or I hope that the world understands that we have everything in the world to be excited about. And yes, there's still bad things happening around us, but it's where we put our energy and what we focus on. So I think that's what's important, is to look within and work on ourselves, and just know that the universe is pulling for us. Extraterrestrials, interdimensionals are pulling for us, and a lot of humans are pulling for us. And people like you that have these podcasts, and people that come out and talk about these things, I think that whatever we can do in a positive, whatever way or whatever capability that it has, it's always in the best interest, and we're doing the right thing. So thank you for having me and letting me do this. I couldn't do it without you.
It's all about disclosure.
Yeah.
That is what it's about. And, we don't get paid neither. We're not running ads and things like that to make money. People usually do this because it's coming from their heart. It's what we want to see good things for our world and the people, for all of humanity. So I hope people understand that we're just doing the best we can, and we all should do our part. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Nancy. And we hope to have you on again to learn more. You are a world of knowledge, I will tell you that.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. A Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure is looking to talk with ufologists, researchers, investigators, contactees, abductees, channelers, and more for upcoming shows. Or if you have stories, photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments, please contact us through Messenger or email us at paranomalypodcast@gmail.com. And you can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure.